Now, the battle part of the game is absolutely one of my favorite parts of the entire game. The way it works is like this. So number one, we have to determine who holds this C zone. In this case, the Americans own the C zone, which means they get a +1 bonus in this battle, and they also get to choose initially whether they're going to go for a surface or an air attack. Now, don't worry, the Japanese player is going to be able to respond to this as well, because, of course, the surface and the air attack have their own positives and negatives. If we look over some of our ships, by the way, the cruisers, for instance, they have air power there. They are going to be able to add to overall air attack, and that's certainly very beneficial. In fact, if we look over here at our air group, they're also going to be able to add an air attack. We can't currently mouse over them, but they're also going to have their own air power. And that's decent. The problem is, just look around here, these other guys are all surface attack ships. So the cruisers are all going to be surface attack ships. We have to look at the Japanese side, and as we can see, the Japanese have 3 aircraft carriers, which, as far as I can tell, means that the Japanese absolutely would have an advantage in an air attack situation. They also have a ship back here, a submarine, that is, I believe, going to be part of the air attack as well. Because the air attack isn't just air attack, it's basically any units that can get in here that have air units, although the submarine might come in a little bit later, I think. In any case, let me show you guys what happens. So obviously, as the American player, I want to go for the surface attack, because I know the Japanese have more air units. And let's be the Japanese, they're going to go for the air attack. Well, what happens now? So see, now they actually start to roll, and the player that wins the roll gets to determine what happens here. They also have an aerial bonus, the Japanese do, so they get +1 in the air. Let's start that aerial attack. And look at that, guys. I was right. The submarine moves in here, and so do our aircraft carriers. And we want to look at the firepower there. They each have firepower of 1, which means they each get about 1 attack. Another very important thing is if you look at those green bars underneath the ship, that lets us know the health points of each individual ship. Well, if you're anything like me, you want to get rid of the enemy's cruisers quickly. Of course, it's much more important for the Americans to get rid of the Japanese cruisers than the other way around, especially when you look at the mountain, carriers, especially when you look at the mountain of enemy cruisers here. But going for those carriers is going to help us out quite a bit. So what am I going to do? I get 4 attacks, right? So 1 attack, that's my first carrier. 2nd attack, that's my 2nd carrier. 3rd attack, I am going to go for their other carrier, the Yorktown. And we actually get an additional attack. Let's hit the Yorktown again. That's our torpedo. Now, there we go. We got a hit on the Lexington, and this is the way it works. So, pretty nice hits. Guys, we got kills on both of these ships. When you see fire on board, what that means is that the ship is going down, it's on fire, it's about to sink. It does get, however, 1 final salvo before going down. So if I were playing as the American player, of course, I'm going to go for the Shokaku. In fact, I'll throw everything at the Shokaku except for my 11th Air Force, and I'm going to have him attack the other enemy character, the other enemy carrier, I should say, the Zuikaku. Let's see how it goes. Oh, nice. We did get a hit. We did get a hit. Hey, we just traded, we traded 2 carriers for 1, and as you can see, 2 carriers go down on our side, 1 carrier goes down on the Japanese side. The battle still rages on. But that just goes to show you how vicious those initial blows can be. And the battle is continuing. So let's take a look here. Surface or air attack. And now it's starting to get a little more even. Actually, it's still very beneficial for the Japanese to go for the air attack. So I am going to choose that air attack. And the enemy is going to choose surface attack, and we win once again. By the way, at any point during this battle, either side can go ahead and retreat and save the rest of their naval forces, which is definitely something you're going to want to consider once a battle really starts to go out of favor for you. In this case, I still think that the battle could be won by either side, although this does complicate things. Now, I'm going for that air attack, but what do I want to do in this air attack phase? Well, they've only got 1 air unit, right? And that is going to be the 11th Air Force. Can we go ahead and take him down? Well, at least we tried. But of course, getting rid of that unit would mean that the enemy has nothing in terms of air attack. Of course, we got our turn with air attack, and so do the allies. And of course, as the allied player, I would absolutely go for that already damaged Zuikaku. Another thing that's interesting, not only is it damaged when we look at the health bars, but the speed is also quite poor because it's already been hit and damaged before. So here we go. Oh, missed with both attacks. That's no fun, but it's going to happen to the best of us, unfortunately. So again, with that +1 as the owner, we're going to go again with the surface attack, and this time, once again, the Japanese would naturally go for that air attack, just because they're not going to come out on top with the surface ships. That being said, we're going to do an air attack followed by a surface attack since we both matched up. And all we've got here is the Shoho. Now, typically at this point, I would really think the Japanese player would essentially retreat, but that's not the case here. So with the Shoho, let's try to hit the Astoria here. And actually did get a lucky hit, 2 hits, which means that ship is destroyed. But once again, it gets one last opportunity to fire before sinking. And of course, with the air units, now that we're playing as the Allies, with the 11th Air Force, I am going to hit those Japanese carriers. That is the biggest threat. And I want to see if any of them are damaged. Now, this one only has 1 hit point, and this one has 3 hits. I want to go for this one and see if we can't knock him out for good. Unfortunately, we missed both attacks, and of course, the fight continues. Now it's time for the Japanese player to return fire. And what are we going to do? I'm just going to go for a good old-fashioned broadside. You can select whichever ships you want here for the shot. So I am going to just trade volleys with all of the enemy ships. Look at that. We got a hit. Another hit. Some of these are kills, guys. Unbelievable. We came out with a dramatic conclusion there. Now it's the American turn. And like I said, even if your ship is sinking, you still have 1 shot left. And it looks like all 3 of these ships are sinking. And this one over here, the Portland, is badly damaged. We're simply going to return that volley. Why not, right? I suspect the American player would probably do something very similar. And again, without a doubt, Japan comes out on top. They do have 2 damaged ships, but that's about it. Now, as the American player, of course, you would want to retreat at this point. As the Japanese player, you're going to want to go for your air attack, likely. You could go for surface, now that the enemy doesn't have much, but the air attack allows us to use those carriers. So let's go with the air pursuit and see if we can't take out the Chester before he gets away. There we go. 1 final attack. We did get a kill. Actually, I think it's just a hit. He's going to get away. And what happens with a ship that's damaged is they are going to return to port and, of course, start to repair. Now, I think you saw that in the left corner of the screen. One beautiful thing there is that even during the battle, you're going to get a play-by-play of everything that's occurring. All the ships that are taking hits, all the ships that are sinking, etc., etc. Now, of course, what we need to do is we need to retreat the patrol ships, the raiding ships, to appropriate docks. So I'm going to send them here to Leh. Let's go ahead and do that. In fact, we'll grab this fellow here and send him to Leh. There we go. And we also have to retreat the Americans now, so we're going to take them, and we'll send him to Espiritu Santo. Nope, that's not an option. What about... Let's go to Guadalcanal. So at least we'll still have some units here in Guadalcanal just in case. Now again, don't think that just because we've got units here at the dock that we control this sea zone. We don't. The Japanese clearly are in control of the South Pacific Sea Zone. So we can't necessarily get excited about that. Now, once again, this task force, the Zuikaku, we're going to go ahead and have to move him back. Actually, we can go for air raids here. I think we're going to stay put. It is an air raid phase, but we can't go for Australia or anything like that. Let's just go ahead and end that one. Let's take a quick look. So actually, I wasn't aware of this, but interestingly enough, we may launch 2 rounds of air raids by carrier planes over bases of the adjacent sea area. That is pretty awesome, and news to me. So let's go ahead and take the Zuikaku. That's our carrier, and oh boy, I'm not so sure I want to follow up with these air raids. And it looks like the Zukaku, yeah, he doesn't want to follow up with that either. Of course, it looks like we might have another battle out here. Let's take a look. And sure enough, we do have a small air fleet battle between us and the Americans. I'm going to go for it. Let's go ahead and get started. The Americans, it looks like, will go ahead and select an attack. Select an attack right back here. And maybe potentially that we can't... Oh, there we go. We need to select the kind of battle. I'm simply going to select air attack this time and have them go ahead and agree. Now, this would not necessarily happen in an actual fight, of course, but we're trying to simplify things. This, of course, is important, though, to mention, because the thing about air fleets is that much like the standard fleets that you have on the actual ocean, the air fleets can control territory. That's right. The air fleets can actually control a sea zone and subsequently get you those victory points you need for a victory. So just something to keep in mind. Don't completely dismiss them. There we go. Finally, the Japanese seem to have gotten a nice hit there. Is he going down? No, I think he's still got some fights left in him. But look at this final air attack for the last battle. All right, we're going to have both units retreat here. I am curious to see kind of what happens after everything is said and done here. And again, with this Coral Sea scenario, it's really just a question of essentially one turn. That's it. You don't really have to worry much about doing multiple turns, but as the game comes to fruition, you will have that opportunity. Let's see, where can we retreat? Can we retreat with these Americans? Yeah, we can go to Guadalcanal. That's about as close as we're going to get. Now we are going for our raiders. And again, like I said before, your raiders cannot capture territory. So all we can really do with the raiders is basically return them to their respective ports. Now, it's important to mention that when it comes to the ports in this game, if you're Japanese and you're landing in Japanese territory, I believe the repair is 3 points every turn. If you're landing in Australia, it's only 1 point every turn. So make of that what you will. It just seems that simply the Japanese ports are a little more prepared for repairs. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get good repairs as the Allies, because, of course, you can go to places like Guadalcanal, Espiritu Santo, etc. So there we go, guys. And as you can see, the Japanese are up by 3 victory points. Now the patrols return. We're going to go ahead and select that patrol, and I am going to drop him right in... Actually, let's send him over here to Mayalap. The only reason I'm doing this is just to make absolutely sure that the Allies don't retake it. And there we go. That is a Japanese victory. One amazing thing about the end of the game here, we can actually look at the game logs, and we can see everything that occurred during this entire campaign, which I think is just such a nice touch. There's so much information here, including even repair information. I think really the only thing that I would like to add is maybe like crew losses for each side. That would be pretty awesome. Nonetheless, guys, I hope this was helpful to you, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Make sure to pick up Fleet Commander today.